heading back to the bunkhouse. But if you need printing, it's time for you to head to Panhandle Printing and Design.
Hey, Sherry. My car needs a West Virginia State Inspection sticker, an oil change, some brakes, and I'm pretty sure I need new tires, too. Do you know of a good and honest place that won't rip off a lady? Do you know a place like that, Sherry?
Sure I do, Krista. I've lived around here my whole life. There's only one place like that around here that I go to, and that's Pennington's Auto Center. It's the only place to go to for all of your car repair needs.
What's the name of that place again?
Pennington's Auto Center on Edwin Miller Boulevard in Martinsburg. Ask for Jeff. He'll take great care of you.
Hey fans, it's Johnny Castle from your Hagerstown Suns. It's another season of minor league baseball in the Hub City, highlighted by Antietam Brewery Tuesdays, Bark in the Park Wednesdays, the ever-popular Thirsty Thursdays, fireworks and giveaways on select Fridays and Saturdays, and of course Sunday Fun Days where kids 12 and under can run the bases following the games. It's 70 games of fun and excitement with the Washington Nationals Class A affiliate. For tickets or more information, head to HagerstownSuns.com. The Hagerstown Suns, Big League Baseball in your backyard.
The Honda 4th of July sales event has brilliant deals on our most popular vehicles, like the Civic, Fit, and Pilot. It's a reason to celebrate across the country, from the Liberty Bell to Hollywood, and even back up to Niagara Falls. So come discover the 2018 KBB.com Best Overall Brand during the Honda 4th of July sales event, now at your Honda dealer.
Miller Honda, south of Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. www.mymillerhonda.com.
Based on 2018 brand inventories from Kelly Blue Book, visit KBB.com for more information.
For the last 34 years, the Martinsburg Bulldogs have been heard on Talk Radio WRNR.
Leaping into the air, Cello Tenenbaugh has it. Is he in the end zone? Yes, he is. It's a Martinsburg Bulldog touchdown just inside the pylon and keeping his feet in bounds on the far sideline. Tenenbaugh pulls it in.
Join Matt Miller, Vic Holmes, and Jason Colrick for all the 2018 football action on your home for Martinsburg football. Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports Radio station.
5 from the Talk Radio WRNR studios, it's time for Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob Mario and David Welch.
Thank you, Cliff. Good morning and welcome into the program. This first segment of our program brought to you this morning by the law offices of Hammer, Ferretti, and Schiavone, delivering first-rate service and results for our clients. That name will change soon, by the way, to reflect the fact that David Hammer is a judge and is removing himself from the law firm as a result of that. Good morning, Davey. How are you?
Good morning to you. And I'm not going into, well, not that unusual when I don't go into my office in Rockville, but I'm not going today for a reason. And the reason is no one's going to be there because they're all going to be at
Constitution Avenue.
Exactly right.
You work with an office full of Caps
fans. It's a holiday. In many offices in Washington today, it's a holiday.
And this would be the official end of the hockey season after the championship parade. That's the end of the hockey season, and that'll take place as soon as they finish the speeches and everybody disperses. And then that team will never be the same again because no matter what happens, even if you bring every single person back, it's not the same. Once you've accomplished that goal of winning a championship for the first time, it's never the same after that.
And the fans aren't the same either. You know, if they did this 3 years in a row, I would imagine there would not be 100,000 plus at the parade 3 years from now. There is an excitement about winning in any city, winning it that very first time. I mean, if the 72, whatever, Celtics won an NBA championship, would there be a parade in Boston? Well, I don't know, we've won 11 of the last 12. It's not that big of a deal, right?
Sure.
But when you win that first one, it's huge.
It's gigantic.
Yep.
Nothing replaces that initial feeling.
And if, you know, and I would put this forward too, there is a possibility that the Caps won't be the only championship sports team in Washington, D.C. this year. You know, I would say the Nats have a shot at this thing.
Well, let's have the Nats win a postseason series first.
Yeah, you're right. But
just once.
But just saying, you know, they're good enough to go all the way.
They are.
They're good enough to go all the way.
When you have a Max Scherzer on your staff, you've got a chance of winning a playoff game.
And a few others in the rotation that aren't bad either. So, you know, they've got a shot at it. So who knows? We might be going through this again in November.
You know, for a little while there, we were talking about the possibility of the BW Parkway Series, right? The Orioles Nationals World Series. We talked about that a couple different times. We know that won't happen this year. The Orioles are just absolutely abysmal, and they continue to be abysmal with no hope of that ending anytime soon.
Which is too bad because they were really at the top of the heap, 2 years ago?
They were close. People thought there might be an Orioles-Nats World Series, right? But they're bad now.
Yeah. I mean, all of a sudden, they just sort of fell off. Anyway, so Washington, D.C. will be alive. I loved watching on one of the local stations this morning an interview with a park ranger that they did. He was, park service guy in his uniform, one of the many responsible for making it all work down there. And he said two things that were very interesting. He says, in terms of the size of event, he goes, we've got many blueprints on how to do large events like this.
Good city for it.
We've got it down pat. But then they got a close-up of his badge that he was wearing, and on the other side of the badge was the first time he had gone to a Caps game, like in ticket stub, as a boy, 8-year-old boy in 1979 was the year, something like that. He's a diehard lifelong Caps fan, so it's fun for him as well. So great festive mood in the city and around the Washington area today, and lots of fun for a lot of people. And I would imagine lots of bars being filled up today.
As you know, I'm a Penguins fan. I had a feeling about the Caps this playoff season.
Yes, you did.
After the Columbus series, the way they came back against Columbus, they played a certain way, kind of dominated. And then Ovechkin's face and expression, and I remember the line he said as they were getting ready to take on the Penguins, I just kind of had a feeling it would be a different playoffs for them than the usual. And, man, I'm not telling you I predicted a Stanley Cup championship, but I just thought this was a different group of guys. And as a Penguins fan, it's not in my DNA to root for the Capitals. Mike Hornby tells me I have to because they are an affiliate of this radio station.
But you never do what the boss tells you to do anyway.
I always do what the boss tells me. I'm very, very loyal to the boss.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't even.
But good for them anyway.
We haven't even mentioned the yesterday or today until right now. Speaking of, I would call a dynasty. The NBA is over now. 4 in a row. Warriors sweep the Cavaliers. And I guess winning 3 of the last 4 kind of makes them a new sports dynasty.
Does. You do 3 or 4, you're a sports dynasty. And
you're the New England Patriots or whatever it is.
Yes, you are. You are.
And it's quite amazing. 4 in a row. And LeBron James out in 4 games. We don't talk much about basketball around here.
Well,
we
don't. No, we really don't.
We talk a lot about college ball at WVU and during the season.
I don't really have a team though in the NBA. My city.
You grow up in Pittsburgh, yeah. Who do you root for?
So you kind of pick. I always kind of went to my favorite player. So when I was younger, my favorite player was Lou Alcindor, who later became Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right.
And then as time went along, kind of a Dr. J a little bit, but I couldn't allow myself to root for Philly, so I had to keep a distance there.
Yeah.
Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. I was a fan of both in the 80s. You weren't supposed to be able to do that, but I was. Then Michael Jordan.
I think you probably weren't the only one.
Right. Michael Jordan after that. But then there was this void. I wasn't into the Allen Iverson generation.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
And I'm still kind of not really fully vested in the NBA. Again, there's no one player in the NBA where I go, I got to watch this guy because, this person draws me to them as an athlete or a leader or a winner. I know we have several examples of people like LeBron James, who you could say, what has he been to 7 or 8 NBA finals in a row? But I'm just not a LeBron guy. I'm not a Steph Curry guy. I'm not a Kevin Durant guy. I mean, none of these guys really appeal to me right now.
Why doesn't basketball at the professional level work in Pittsburgh? There are just some cities it doesn't work in. You can put an NFL team in any city, and it will probably work.
Well, you don't have...
But basketball just doesn't work.
In that size city, you have to remember...
Which is a medium-sized city.
There are very few cities that have 4 professional sports teams at that size. It takes a pretty large city to support 4 professional teams: baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. Pittsburgh has 3, not 4. Most cities of that size only have 2 or 3.
Well, until 2 years ago, Los Angeles, the second largest city in the country, didn't even have all 4.
For 30 years, right?
Yeah, well, about 25, I think, but almost, yeah.
Attorney General of the state of West Virginia and U.S. Senate candidate Patrick Morrisey joins us now on the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. Patrick, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, good morning, guys. It's always good to be on the program with you.
Do you have a favorite NBA team or basketball player you follow?
I would say that there are a couple folks. I know that I was intrigued by the finals because when you get 4 back-to-back exchanges in a row between the Warriors and Cleveland, I mean, that's interesting. And I think that the matchup, it became quite a rivalry at the end. So, I've been following. I don't know that I have a favorite among some of the top stars, but I think you have to have a great deal of respect for a lot of the guys, not only LeBron, but Durant and Curry. And then you go look at Houston. I think Houston's the second best team in the NBA. I mean, James Harden is just unbelievable. Mm-hmm. I think when Chris Paul got hurt in that series against Golden State, that really was deadly because they could have won Game 7, and this very easily could have been a Houston Rockets sweep over Cleveland.
Oh, I agree.
So, I would say that, I try to follow it. I don't follow it as closely as I probably did when I was younger. I don't follow it as closely as I do college football, professional football, or baseball. But, I do enjoy to watch some of the playoff games in the NBA. Or, my dad always used to say to me, son, you won't miss a basketball game if you just watch the last 2 minutes.
True.
And that's generally true. So it's definitely a very enjoyable sport. And I've been watching the finals the last 4 years, and I think it's been interesting for basketball. But I think the Houston Golden State series, to me, that was the real exciting one. And I was just very bummed that Chris Paul got hurt because these guys could have come in for just a landmark Game 7 of all time, given how that series was developing.
Hey, the Attorney General is bringing basketball this morning. We could bring him on as a part-time sports analyst.
He's hoping it.
Hey, guys, back when I was younger, folks used to say I was Mr. Statistic, but mostly because we used to follow all the major sports, whether we're talking baseball, basketball, hockey at the time, used to follow that. That used to be much more exciting and much more interesting. Although I will say that the Washington Caps story is pretty unbelievable.
Yep.
Because this is a franchise that really invested for a long time, and they just always fell short. And I actually think one of the guys that doesn't get the credit for this Stanley Cup is a guy by the name of George McPhee. Does that name ring a bell for you guys?
Yeah, he's the GM of the Las Vegas Knights. He had his handprint all over this hockey club.
Well, yeah, but what I'm saying is that he has handprint on the Washington Capitals hockey club, right?
That's what I'm saying, yeah. Yeah, he's the current GM of Las Vegas, but he was the guy that put together much of this roster.
No, that's right, but that's what I'm saying is that it was just interesting to see that kind of dynamic. And, I don't know George well, but I knew him from a long time ago, and he used to be a Rangers hockey player. And the irony is that you had a GM that used to be one of the toughest guys in the league. I mean, that guy probably had more penalty minutes than anyone growing up. And so he was really a key to the Washington Capitals' success, and I think a pretty good guy.
What did you think about the Supreme Court ruling that worked out in the state's favor yesterday, Patrick?
I thought it was an excellent ruling for a number of reasons. Look, we were part of that process. We weighed in. If you're a state, you have to have the ability to check to see whether voters are in fact registered, whether they live in those addresses, and to allow the state the basic mechanisms to ensure that the integrity of the voter rolls are protected is critical. And I think that's what it was all about. And I think what this Secretary of State is doing, what you saw in Ohio and other states, is that people are trying to test periodically whether folks are registered, and if they're not voting over a certain period of time, that you can ultimately drop them from the rolls. I think that's important, not because they're not voting, quite frankly, but because they're not even responding or the address is wrong. These are just basic mechanisms to ensure that fraud is not going to occur in West Virginia or in other states that periodically send notes out. We're not talking about people that get dropped because they don't vote in one election. We're talking about people whose addresses have changed or people who just have been unresponsive for 4 or 6 years. I think that's a significant issue, and if you don't vote, I mean, it may give rise to some of these ballot integrity issues.
Hey, Patrick, just so there's no confusion with our listeners, I want to get this straight, because I think some people might be hearing this and saying, hey, if I haven't voted in the last 4 elections, I won't be able to go vote. So can you really clarify what the law is in West Virginia?
Well, I think that if you haven't voted in a number of elections, then you still are eligible to vote. But if you haven't voted and or if your address has changed, and if there's a card set by the Secretary of State and no one responds, or it comes back and it's indicated that the address has changed for you, then you would not be able to vote. So if and this would be by notification of the Secretary of State's office. So this is not a process where I don't vote in this election or I didn't vote in the last election, you're going to get dropped. There really is going to be a broader change in your address status, or you haven't, let's say you moved to another state, but you kept this address in West Virginia, but you haven't been there in a number of years. So that's when you might be vulnerable to this type of ballot integrity system.
Let's turn our attention to North Korea just for a second. You might, I know it's early and none of us have had a lot of time to sort of digest all of this, but overall, your basic opinion as to what happened yesterday in Singapore.
Well, I know that there are early reports, but it seems as if the president and Kim have really been able to get together and that they had an initial good exchange. I saw the TV reports where they were able to shake hands, which is really a landmark for the president shaking hands with the North Korean president. And that was obviously, a first step forward. And then I saw that they exchanged, I believe, 2 45-minute meetings where they were talking about denuclearizing North Korea. The president seemed optimistic about it. Look, I'm very hopeful that the president's exchanges with North Korea could bear fruit. And obviously, it's early in the process. I would note that President Trump seems to have been tackling the North Korea issue far differently than his predecessors. If you remember, you go back to the Clinton administration, and then you stretch through to the Bush administration, to the Obama administration, time after time, there was always this optimism that you could strike a deal or that you could be in a situation where you'd be able to denuclearize North Korea. And time after time, North Korea kept developing their nukes to the point where right now there's an argument that they have the ability to have an intercontinental missile which could strike the United States. And so I think it's good to talk to people and to try to engage and to try to prevent things like that from happening, because look, you're talking about the ultimate in terms of Holocaust when any nation state has a nuclear weapons capability. And all of us are rightfully very concerned about North Korea and what they were doing. There was a lot of saber rattling with the president, but I think this president stood up very strong. I think when he canceled the summit, that probably shook up North Korea. It forced them back to the table, and I'm hopeful that there could be some true peace effort there. Now, I still think it's early, and I am very leery of nation states that do that kind of saber rattling for a period of time. So I think the proof is going to be in the pudding, but I give the president credit for making this kind of effort, going to Singapore, and by being willing to use the power of the presidency to call off meetings and gain leverage.
Well, the reason that it's a pertinent question to you or anyone who is a nominee of their party for the U.S. Senate, it's quite likely that this new Senate that comes in next year might in fact be voting on something to ratify an agreement between North Korea and the United States.
Well, that's right.
So that's why I think it's very important. What does a Senate candidate do during the summer months before the fall begins, Patrick? I mean, you've won the primary. These are kind of what you and I would have referred to back in our day, right, as the dog days of a campaign. What's going on, and what does a candidate do during these months?
Well, a couple things. First, I have a day job, and people may know that we're busy continuing to do the work of the people. We have a lot of work fighting the substance abuse epidemic. We know that every day there's a legal matter in the Attorney General's office that takes time out and attention. So we continue to do that. And then beyond that, we're obviously working hard on the mechanics of the political campaign, trying to ensure that the message and the mechanics are in good order. And, of course, you have to raise resources to be able to communicate in the fall. But I would say that we're continuing to ensure that voters know there's a real contrast between my record as Attorney General, what we've been able to get done over the past 6 years, versus Joe Manchin, who's been quite ineffective as a U.S. Senator. And I think that we're going to keep talking about that. Folks who are following on social media know that a lot of the evenings after I've been able to get off of work, I can get out to various fairs and festivals. You can talk to voters. You can engage. And we've been doing that a lot across the state. But I think that you want to make sure that people know there is a real contrast. And I feel very good coming out of the primary. We've been really able to bring so many of the Republicans together, and we're getting a lot of enthusiasm from Democrats, from independents. Look, people know that at the end of the day, West Virginia wants someone to stand for her conservative values. And that's my record, not only taking on the Obama administration repeatedly, fighting for substance abuse, standing up for the Second Amendment. And that stands really in stark contrast to Joe Manchin, who just recently indicated he thought supporting Hillary Clinton was a mistake. And this is a candidate that on every major issue, whether we're talking Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, Planned Parenthood, Second Amendment, cap and trade, taxes, his position keeps changing. It's shifting. And on one hand, he's for the issue, then he's against the issue. I think that's why President Trump has made this the top target in the country to pick up a seat. We know that the president's son came in to support me last week. I expect that the president's going to be here a few times. We've been talking with the vice president's office. I think he's eager to come in. So I think it's going to be a very busy summer, and I think it's going to set up the contrast for the fall. But we're just continuing to work hard in the office every day, making sure we're doing the good work of the people.
Attorney General and Republican Senate nominee Patrick Morrisey is our guest, courtesy of the WVU Medicine Berkeley Medical Center talk line. How did that photo op come about last week, Patrick?
You know, over the last number of months, there are a number of people that I know in common with the president's son. And so we've been chatting for a while, and I think the president's son, who has a keen political mind of his own, has really expressed interest in helping a number of candidates out across the country who would serve as allies to the president. And so given some of the people that we do know in common, we started having discussions and talking about the prospects of him coming into West Virginia and helping out. And I think the president's son, I have to tell you, one a heck of a nice guy and a smart guy, and did a great job at this event, just kind of down to earth. I mean, one of the things you never realize when you're meeting some of these people, you don't know who's going to show up and how they're going to act. Well, this is a guy who was salt of the earth. He was willing to engage everyone and anyone at the event, at the press conference, and just do it in a very humble manner and just very likable. So that was really encouraging, and I thought an incredible sign. And you guys also know that the Trump family really loves West Virginia. President Trump has been here 4 times. His son has spent a lot of time here. He's done hunting and fishing in West Virginia. So I just think he was eager to come because he loves the state and because he's really interested in helping me win the Senate seat. And he knows that Joe Manchin is incredibly vulnerable, and we need to pick up the seat in order to ensure that the GOP retains control of the Senate. I mean, people know a vote for Joe Manchin is a vote for Chuck Schumer and against the Trump agenda, and folks know the importance of that.
Patrick, thanks so much for your time this morning. Very much appreciated.
Hey, guys, thanks. It's always a pleasure to be on your program, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. West Virginia Attorney General and Republican Senate nominee Patrick Morrisey at 8:31. We'll join our news break now in progress.
Well, it's going to be achieved by having a lot of people there. And as we develop a certain trust, and we think we have done that.
Will those people be Americans or international?
Combinations of both.
Agency.
Combinations of both. And we have talked about it, yes.
CBS News senior global affairs contributor Ian Bremmer remains skeptical.
It's a very high bar to go from here to complete, verifiable, irreversible denuclearization, and the North Koreans didn't actually take any concrete step towards that.
The president also says the two leaders spent some time addressing human rights abuses in North Korea. CBS News Special Report. I'm Jim Taylor.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. There will be commercial ambulance fees in Jefferson County. Late last week, the county commission giving the go-ahead to charge for the service based on the square footage of each business, with no business paying less than $90 per year and some paying upwards of $1,900 annually. Churches, public schools, Shepherd University, and nonprofits will also be charged. The measure is expected to generate $270,000 in revenue. The Saturday before last, Martinsburg police got a report of a robbery at Old Berkeley News on South Queen Street. They ID'd the suspect as 41-year-old Joseph Harry, and this past Sunday they arrested him at the Heritage Inn on Winchester Ave. Harry has previous convictions for drug possession and larcenies. City of Martinsburg offices will be closed next Wednesday, the 20th, in observance of West Virginia Day. Normal business hours resuming next Thursday. The trash pickup schedule will remain the same. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We're seeing Atlantic coastal high pressure building back in across the eastern portion of the country today, at least in our backyard. And that's going to bring some sunshine here and temperatures on the milder side than they've been for the last couple of days. Looking at about 76 degrees for our high in the afternoon. Light winds out of the southeast. Clouds will increase again overnight and into the early morning. The small chance of a shower. Early morning low reading at 62. Better chance for scattered showers and thunder showers coming up for Wednesday as we've got warmer air, more humidity coming back. Highest temperature near 85. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
Life is complicated, but your finances shouldn't have to be. At BCT, we simplify your financial life. Bank of Charlestown is a locally owned community bank with 7 conveniently located offices serving the eastern panhandle of West Virginia, Middleburg, Virginia, and their newest office in Hagerstown, Maryland. With over 140 years of experience, BCT is the tri-state area's choice for fast, convenient, and hassle-free banking solutions. Whether you are a high school senior looking for a student checking account, a college graduate purchasing a new car, a first-time home buyer, or investing for retirement, BCT has flexible solutions to fit your lifestyle. BCT is committed to providing everyday ways to simplify your financial life. Also, make sure you are following BCT on Twitter and Instagram at MyBCT or like their Facebook page to see how BCT reinvests local deposits back into the communities they serve. BCT, we simplify your financial life.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Kids, what's the rule about running in the house?
Always run hard out of the box.
That's not what I said.
She's running third. Here comes the play at the plate. Uh-oh.
Let's clean that up before Mom gets home.
Exciting baseball action and quality family time? There's a place for that. Nationals Park. Get more bang for your buck this baseball season with deals on tickets and concessions for the whole family. See you at Nationals Park, your place to run wild. Buy your tickets today at nationals.com.
Hi, honey.
Where are you?
I've been in line at the post office for the last 30 minutes.
Why are you at the post office? It'll take you all day.
Where else do I go to ship my packages or drop FedEx off at?
Honey, going postal is way faster, has less lines, and friendly service.
Where's going postal?
It's right in the Common Shopping Center in Martinsburg. They'll ship your packages quickly, and you can avoid the lines.
Going postal should be your first choice for all your shipping needs. Going postal, the Commons, Martinsburg.
Since 1877, Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies have proudly supported our local community. Farmers and Mechanics has the insurance products to meet your needs, including home, auto, farm, dwelling fire, business owners, and umbrella coverage. Please contact your local independent agency for a review of your insurance needs and ask for a policy from the company that knows you best. Farmers and Mechanics Insurance Companies, just off Edwin Miller Boulevard on Administrative Drive in Martinsburg. FMIWV.com.
This segment of Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave is brought to you by our good friends at Bechtel Jewelers, West Virginia's largest Pandora retailer. Rudy live in South Inwood, next to Viva Mexico. Good morning, Davey.
Hey, good morning, Robbie. How are you today?
Awesome.
Would you like me to interview you today?
What would you like to ask?
Well, we could ask you,
Ask me anything.
How are the Pirates doing, Rob?
Yesterday, they blew a 5-0 lead to Arizona and lost 9-5, and they blew it in the 7th inning, which is even better because it's just a few outs to get at that point. Mm-hmm. So it makes the loss even more painful.
How about are you planning your vacation yet for the year?
Yes, I will be going to the lake.
Okay, with your family.
Indeed,
right?
And my next door neighbors.
Uh-huh. Oh, you had a two-family thing.
And it'll be. We did that last summer.
Oh, you did? I thought you went alone.
No, and my sister and her husband will join us at some point along the way, I believe.
Okay.
That'll be fun. Good. Next question.
The Welches weren't invited on that vacation, I noticed.
Not yet, but keep working. 2 up, one to go. You get 3 questions.
I've got to stay here and do the show.
Like a genie. Yeah. So go ahead. You got your last question.
I know everything I need to know about you today.
Check this out. This is from an article in the journal here this morning. I happened to come across this. And West Virginia University finished second in the NASA Mars Ice Challenge. Okay, we're about to do an interview on STEM here in a second, right?
Yeah.
So West Virginia University's team, people make the West Virginia jokes, right?
I've heard a few of them.
Listen to who WVU beat out, okay? You ever hear of Carnegie Mellon University?
Oh, yeah, like they are oftentimes the #1 rated university in the United States.
CMU, which was just down the street from where I went to college at Duquesne. All the CMU students.
Yeah, very, very brainy school.
Very. They look down their noses at us.
We might have a future CMU student right in our studio right now.
MIT.
Oh,
Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Big time.
Beat them.
They did not.
They did too.
No way. The Mountaineers beat MIT?
WVU beat MIT and CMU in this Mars Ice Challenge brought to you by NASA.
Absolutely wonderful.
WVU finished
I think
second.
we should be just as excited about that as we are the football team going to a bowl game.
Football team hasn't finished second.
No.
And last year, WVU won it, Dave.
They won the whole
They won
thing.
the whole NASA Mars Ice Challenge last year.
That's awesome.
Right?
Yeah. We need to get more. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
That's what they're doing is pretty insane from a scientific standpoint.
Yes, it is.
Something I can't comprehend, but maybe our next guest can. Emma Engle, who I think right now, unless Chuck will correct me, I think right now we can safely say Emma's the most intelligent person in the room.
Thank you.
Chuck, you're not going to argue?
No.
Chuck's the dad.
She's definitely the cutest, okay? Can we go?
Well, I wouldn't go there yet.
You wouldn't? No.
Emma got slammed by her dad on that one. Sorry, Emma. That's the way it happens.
We love your grandparents, by the way.
I know. You tell me every time.
Every time. I just love your grandparents.
And your grandma makes a killer lasagna.
Oh.
She does.
By the way. It's been a few years since I've had it, but the memory remains. And being Sicilian, I don't pass out compliments on lasagna easily.
You notice how she just said every time I come in, it's like, hey, I'm here all the time.
Yeah, she's bored by you already is what she said.
It's like, I'm here all the time,
Emma, where did you go to middle school?
I went to South Middle School.
South Middle. And you're part of the STEM program there, and you're about...
No.
You weren't?
Nope.
Private club?
Yes.
Okay. What
My
was
dad
your private?
runs a club.
Your dad, Chuck, runs the club.
Yeah.
Chuck, tell me about this STEM club that you run.
We are the Berkeley County 4-H STEM group. We are a regular 4-H group and club, but we have a focus on STEM activities.
Okay. And Emma apparently is excelling at these STEM activities, correct?
Yeah. I'm going to go to a camp that's called National Youth Leadership Forum. I'm really excited about it. I got nominated by my science teacher to go.
Who's that?
Andrew Snyder.
Okay, Mr. Snyder.
Yeah. And it's they had like a bunch of different campuses that you could go to for this camp. It's a week long. You can either stay or drive back and forth every day. But they didn't really have any close to us. So I'm going to stay, and I'm going to St. John's University in New York. And it's mainly like the camp is focused on STEM activities and learning how to be a leader in those fields.
And that's what science, technology, engineering, and math, STEM. Mm-hmm. And that's so when you hear STEM, that's what they're talking about there. So you have been part of these programs for how many years now?
Well, I started robotics in fourth grade is when we started. So I'm going into my 5th year of doing it.
Okay.
And you did all that through the 4-H club mostly?
No, not all of it.
Or did you just do it because it was fun?
Well, I started out because my enrichment teacher, Miss Cindy Everts, started a club at my school in Orchard View, and that's how I got into it. We went to a qualifier, and we didn't make it past the qualifier, but I was really into it. And my brother started getting into FLL, which is First Lego League. So that's how we started a team. And my dad actually started helping out with the teams outside of school after we stopped doing them in school. So that's how we got stuck in the loop.
Chuck, what motivated you to start this and get your kids involved in it?
It became evident that our son Edward was a Lego fanatic. So actually sitting on the front porch one evening.
A Lego fanatic?
A Lego fanatic. That's his existence as Lego.
Wow.
Not as much anymore, but it was. But I actually just Googled Lego competitions, trying to find something that could focus him on what he enjoyed doing, but still be educational. And we found First Lego League. And then we found that somebody within Berkeley County 4-H actually ran a First Lego League team. And that's how we got involved.
Go figure.
Yeah. So we've actually put Edward into that group. I was a parent volunteer.
And he was how old then?
Oh, this was 7 years ago, so probably 10.
Okay.
No, 9.
9, okay.
Yeah. So we started there, and then we got more involved with the group. And unfortunately, the person who started that group passed away, and we kind of inherited the STEM group and made it not just a specialty club anymore, but an actual 4-H group that you can join. I mean, we have kids building robots and rockets who are also showing pigs at the fair. So,
is your background, Chuck, more in the STEM things or more in the 4-H stuff?
Neither.
So you just kind of happened into this?
We happened into it, yeah.
So I assume you've had to learn a lot as you've gone along the way here?
I started when Edward did, learning the same as he did. Just from experience.
Because I would have guessed the same thing. Well, I would have guessed that he was a scientist or had a professional scientific background or something.
No, I work in autism and special ed at Martinsburg High.
Okay, wow.
And you'll be going to Martinsburg next year?
I will.
Okay, so you're going to go to this competition in New York in July?
It's not a competition, but it's just like a summer camp. But
summer camp, gotcha.
Yes, it's July 7th through 13th.
Okay, and you'll do what there?
Well, we're going to do like a different thing every day, but
so what kind of things will they ask you to do?
Well, the first day is just going to be registration stuff, and then the second day we're going to be working with engineering and robotics. They're going to have somebody from NASA, an astronaut, talking to us. It's going to be really interesting. I'm excited. On the third day, we're going to be talking about medicine and healthcare type stuff. And the fourth day, we're going to talk about forensic sciences and learn about stuff like that and do some cool experiments. The fifth day, we're doing civil engineering, and it's just a lot of different types of science-related things. It's going to be really fun.
Okay, and all this stuff is fascinating to you?
Yes.
Okay. Is there any part of it that's not? Like, have you encountered anything where you say, well, I don't want to do that for a living?
Well, in science class, we were doing chemistry type stuff, and I'm not into chemistry type stuff. Okay. I'm more into the engineering, programming, and like computer language type things.
Why do you think that is? What point along the way did you go, you know what, this is kind of for me?
Well, it was when we first started doing the teams, and we had like block code type stuff. It wasn't like writing codes. And we had to program the robot to do stuff, and I was really into that. Not as much as the building stuff, but I was into programming the robots. And then I went to a camp last year, and that's what I was in here last time for. It was World Robotics, and we were learning how to write code, like actual code, not block coding. It was a lot of fun. So I guess I just kind of gravitated towards that more so than the other types of sciences.
Is it unusual for someone your age to be as advanced to a point, Emma, where you can talk about coding and block coding and about robotics? I mean, do you consider yourself to be somewhat unusual in both your interest and your knowledge of STEM-related and robotic-related tasks and projects?
Sometimes, yeah, because I have some friends at school that are really into robotic stuff too. But when we start having a conversation about it, I go into all these different branches of stuff, and they don't talk about that stuff. So, yeah, I would say it's different.
Do you sound a little nerdy every once in a while?
I sound a little nerdy all the time.
And you wear it as a badge of pride,
Yes,
I think.
Very proudly.
How about this? I mean, I think that when your dad and Rob and I were your age growing up, generally speaking, you would find boys more interested in this kind of thing than girls. Has that now changed?
Yeah, there are a lot of girls that I know that are really into this kind of stuff. I have some friends in my robotics club that my dad runs that are girls. It's pretty much 50-50 in that club. It's a lot of fun.
That's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're talking with Emma Engle. Her dad, Chuck, helps to run the STEM program out of 4-H, and Emma's headed to St. John's University in New York for camp this July to further her STEM studies, so to speak. She'll be entering high school next year. She was part of a program last year that actually competed at Shepherd University. Was that like building robots and then they square off against each other like the TV show BattleBots?
Yeah, we did that earlier this year. We do that every year. We've been doing it for 4 years.
Actually, this will be our 6th year coming up.
Sixth year, wow, okay. Yeah, it's like BattleBots, kind of.
That's half your life ago, Emma.
I know.
Just about, huh?
Yeah.
What's the name of your bot?
We changed the name to every competition, but we had it named after a musical last year.
Okay, what'd you call it?
Peggy, from Hamilton.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lin-Manuel Miranda's scope and range goes all the way into the BattleBots now, apparently. So what kind of a bot was yours? Was it a spinner, or were you using some type of weapon otherwise?
Well, we built like a scoop type thing on the top of it.
Okay.
And we had it follow a line following code, or like it was sensing there's a black line around the ring that you're not supposed to get out of. So we had it sense that, so it would turn around every time that it would hit the ring. And we had an ultrasonic sensor, which helps the robot like see things in front of it. So whenever it would see something, it would like go towards the object and try to push it out of the ring.
Now, this was put together by fellow students in the club.
I think there were 3 or 4 people on my team.
We actually fielded 5 robots for that competition from our group.
Mm-hmm. Do the adults do any assembly or coding? This is all done by the kids.
The adults, we are the roadies. We follow along with the equipment.
And how do you learn to do this?
I've been doing it for a very long time, and I know that my dad and I have stayed up so many nights just like building and programming robots for things. So I guess I've just learned by experience and like have seen what works and what doesn't work with things.
Do you watch BattleBots much?
I do watch it sometimes.
Do you have a favorite bot on the show?
No, I haven't been watching it this season. But
it's pretty cool the way they're doing it this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of watch it here and there. I'm always busy, so I don't really have time to watch TV anymore.
All right. Minotaur's up there for me. I don't know if you remember Minotaur or not, but I'm a big fan of Minotaur. Yeti, Witch Doctor, all the major bots that are on that show. They're all fun to watch. So, what's the end game with this? What do you hope to ultimately do?
Do you mean with like this competition season?
No, I mean with studying this and
where do you want to be when you're 30?
I want to have.
She's going to give me a serious answer.
Yeah.
Oh, she's got an answer. Let's go there.
Yeah.
I think that's what Rob was talking about.
I want to have a job as a computer programmer or an engineer of some sort that has to do with programming. I want to go to MIT for.
Maybe you can help them beat WVU next time.
I have a niece who is 29, so she would have graduated from high school 11-ish years ago, and she's from Pittsburgh. She went to Virginia Tech, majored in engineering, was the number 1 woman in her engineering class academically, and she got a job in the Washington area in computer engineering of some sort. But now, for the last 5 years, she's at Google in San Francisco, which is one of the most awesome places in the world to work, from what I understand. Yeah. So she has done very, very well and had similar interest in high school to yours, maybe not the robotic part, but just the overall STEM part and pursued it, and is now well into six figures at 29 years old and doing quite well.
Which you need to have if you live out on the West Coast.
Well,
just to afford rent.
Especially when you live right in the city like she does.
Emma Engle is with us on the program along with her dad, Chuck. Chuck runs the STEM program through 4-H that Emma is excelling through as she's gotten her way through middle school and her high school next year, and is off to a camp in New York. There's another person from your team that's also been selected to go to this camp?
Not from my team. She's from my school, and she is going into 8th grade this year. They select, I think every science teacher is given the opportunity to select a student, but very rarely do they do that because the camp is very, very involved. So,
is there at Martinsburg High School, I hope the answer to this is yes, but is there at Martinsburg High School a program for achievers such as yourself and the other young lady that you're talking about to be in classes like college prep classes where you're learning things at a level that perhaps other students might not be interested in? And
I don't know if there's a specific program. I know that there are advanced classes, and they do have a robotics
in science,
team.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
From the high school, we come at it from the 4-H perspective. So, but I know there are some things within the school system as well.
Yeah, my granddaughters were really involved and still are in 4-H, but not in that part of it. So I'm familiar with the whole thing works. I did not know that 4-H had a club like this, though.
Yeah, we are as a full-fledged club. This will be our second year going. We were just a niche group before. We were a special interest group that you had to be a member of another 4-H group to be able to participate in what we did. But now we are. Like I said, we have kids showing animals at the fair and building robots.
That's funny. So. The importance of this kind of education at your age has ramifications in the future that are unbelievably important. I highly suspect by the time you are into your 30th or so year and you're out of college and you're in a full-fledged profession, it will be the folks like you and these STEM achievers who really will be occupying, I think, the primary leadership positions in our culture and in our society. And you're probably aware of that, aren't you?
Yeah.
It's a lot to dump on your shoulders, Emma. We understand you're like 14, but this is what you have to deal with.
I just think it's so exciting. And I think you expect this perhaps in big cities or big metropolitan areas, but that it's happening in small rural towns like Martinsburg, I think makes it even more magnified in its importance.
We started just over a year ago. We had like 10 regular attendees to our group. And after the World of Robotics last year and some radio and newspaper, we are up over 40 kids, and they are amazing.
Glad we could help.
They are amazing 40 kids. That is really cool.
We grew a little bigger than we expected. So,
Emma, do you excel in all of your classes? I know you don't particularly like chemistry, but or is this just the one thing that kind of really gets your interest?
This is really the one thing that gets my interest. I love math and science, but I like my other classes. I really don't have a subject that I'm not into.
That's good. I have an older son who's very intelligent, and he would get like an A in physics and a D in photography. How do you get a D in photography?
I actually love photography.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
don't get a D in that. It brings your grade point average down.
Yeah.
They all count the same. So do you, as you go through your day, do you see things and try to figure out how they're engineered? Is that how your brain works?
Yeah, honestly.
We talked, remember Dr. Tracy Lasky? We said, what do you do when you see a bug in your house? And she said, I turn it over and I inspect it and find out what it's all about.
But she said that she's been doing that since she was in kindergarten.
Yes.
She's always done that all of her life, which goes back, Rob, to the old thing. If you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And you strike me as that kind of person.
Yeah, it's really something I can't stop doing. Like, no matter how hard I try, I'm always trying to figure out how things work and looking at how they're built and stuff like that.
Can you take a car engine apart?
No.
Because Dave's looking for some work on his timing belt. He was hoping that you could do that.
I'm taking my VW into the shop after the show. I thought I'd save some money. It's out in the parking lot if you want to take a crack at it.
Give it a shot. Don't give up so easily on this, Emma. You might, you got to drag out there. Do you? You said you wanted to go to MIT.
I do.
Have you reached out to them already at this point?
Yeah, we were at a festival. It was a science and
USA
engineering
Science and Engineering
festival in Washington D.C. this year, and they had a booth, and I stopped by and I looked at all their stuff and I had a conversation with them about what I want to do when I apply for MIT. I'm excited.
Chuck, I want to ask you a question, and if you would just maybe give it a thought and think about it, because every parent, every grandparent wants Emma as a grandchild. I mean, or a child. I mean, the minute they're born, you want a great kid. I mean, and you do your best to raise a great kid. Tell us how proud you are of Emma.
Oh, of Emma and my other kids. They are amazing. Emma surprises me every day with gifts that I didn't have. So to be able to see her do things that I would have never thought that I would be able to do, we're blessed.
And Emma, same question kind of. What kind of influence has your dad been on getting you to where you are now?
Well, both my parents, they've always supported me with everything that I've wanted to do. They've always told me when things are like a good decision, but they've also told me when things are a bad idea. So
they feel free to express that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they just want what's best for me.
It's unusual, parents telling kids what a bad idea.
It's amazing.
But yeah, they've always had a very big impact on things that I enjoy doing. They give me every opportunity that I can have. They're always reaching out to people about things that I want to do. They're just very, very supportive.
I've always said that a busy kid is a good kid, and you seem to be very much fall into that category of being very, very busy. We know, obviously, you've been here with the choir, so you sing as well. Are you going to keep up with that at Martinsburg?
Yeah, I tried out for the selective women's choir, which is called Lady Coral Ears, and I
love
made it.
that group. Congratulations.
Yeah. There are 14 girls this year.
I'm sure we're going to have you all in here at some point this year.
Crowded room.
Oh, yeah. Well, we broke the record. Were you part of that group when we had, I think we had like 28.
Edward, our son, was here.
Edward, that's right. Edward was, in fact, he said, right? I think, yes, I do remember Edward in for that. Where's he off to? Is he graduated yet?
No, he'll be a sophomore this year.
Oh, he'll only be a sophomore, okay.
He's at 4-H camp this week.
I see. My granddaughter will be at 4-H camp next week as a counselor.
I'll be there.
Oh, you'll be there? Look for Emily Kiefer. She'll be a counselor next week. Yeah. So she's turns.
Tell her you know Boppy.
Yeah, you know Boppy. That's my grandpa name.
Okay.
So you guys could become pals. She's a lovely young lady.
Give her the sign. Boppy. Make the power fist right there.
We've had a couple of times that get to talk about that this week.
Chuck, does this run in the family?
I mean, Dad was a science teacher, so that interest was instilled early in me. But as far as the robotics, no, it's all new to everybody. I mean, we jump in and learn. It's a hands-on thing. It's an experiential thing. You can read about it all day, but until you get your hands on it and you do it.
Hey, when's the next time you're doing your own BattleBot competition there?
Well, the last one just passed. It was a month or two ago.
We're entering into First Tech Challenge this year is our first entry into that. So that comes up starting in September.
Emma, great to have you in studio. Best of luck to you this summer as you go to St. John's, and hope you learn a bunch more.
Thank you.
Chuck, great job.
Thank you.
And Susan, too. And
very much so.
Gula and Roger. We got to get them back.
Roger was a science teacher. Is that right?
Yeah, chemistry.
We only know him as a quirky novelist.
No, that's his second or third career.
Side job.
All right.
It's 9 o'clock. Our news break is coming up next, and then our friends from the VA Medical Center in Martinsburg will be stopping by. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg.
You should never count your chickens, darling, before your eggs get hatched.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Zoom Video Conferencing.
I'm Jim Taylor. President Trump's assessment of his North Korean adversary?
Very smart, very good negotiator, wants to do the right thing.
Singapore summits in our rearview mirror. President Trump ranks it among the greatest events in world history.
We signed a very, very comprehensive document, and I believe he's going to live up to that document. In fact, when he lands, which is going to be shortly, I think that he will start that process right away.
I'm Cammie McCormick at the Pentagon. The president says he'll halt U.S. military exercises with South Korea while these negotiations continue. These exercises are something the Pentagon has insisted for years are part of the treaty with Seoul to maintain military readiness. They've often angered Pyongyang. President Trump seemed to indicate they were being halted as part of a cost-saving measure.
Word those war games are ending, catching the South Korean military off guard today. The rest of the world reacting to the summit.
I'm Vicky Barker at the Foreign Desk in London. Among those welcoming the deal, Britain, Russia, and the UN's nuclear watchdog. It's offering to undertake any verification activities in North Korea. But Iran is warning Kim Jong-un not to trust Donald Trump, a spokesman in Tehran calling him a man who revokes his signature while abroad, an apparent reference to Mr. Trump pulling out of that G7 communique this past weekend.
What do they think about the summit in North Korea? CBS's Ben Tracy.
So far, the North Korean people have not heard much about what happened at the summit. The latest state media reports are still focused on Kim Jong-un's Monday night tour of Singapore. It's being characterized in North Korea as an opportunity for Kim to learn from Singapore's economic development.
President Trump's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow, is recovering from what the White House calls a mild heart attack last night. He held 4 children hostage for hours before killing them and himself, Orlando Police Chief John Mina.
The children died from apparent gunshot wounds, and it appears the suspect took his life as well.
The suspect also shot a police officer who was responding to that domestic violence call. That police officer is recovering. Extreme fire danger, southwest Colorado. Residents of more than 2,000 homes remain evacuated. Lori DeLise is one of them.
You don't know what to expect. And so we didn't know if we were going to lose everything or what.
Ohio plans to resume its process for removing inactive voters from its voter rolls. U.S. Supreme Court ruling 5-4 that states can target registered voters who have not cast ballots in a while. Civil rights groups and some Democrats expect more Republican-led states to enact voter purges. Rising gas costs pushing up consumer prices 0.2% in May. The government says this annual inflation's highest in 6 years. Ahead of the markets open, S&P futures up almost 3. This is CBS News.
Zoom video conferencing, featuring video and audio clarity with screen sharing. Free accounts are available at zoom.us. That's zoom.us. Zoom video conferencing.
Do you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS? Are you facing potential wage garnishments, levies, or tax liens? With a call to the Attorney's Tax Relief Helpline, you can get the tax help you need through special programs that can reduce your liability by thousands of dollars. Pick up your mobile phone and dial *1234. Yes, that's right. Pick up your mobile phone and dial *1234. Once you've qualified and enrolled, the IRS will stop all collection activities against you. Attorney's Tax Relief has been helping consumers reduce their debt and are trusted and accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Again, on your mobile phone, dial *1234. That's *1234. If you owe the IRS $10,000 or more, call Attorney's Tax Relief now and get free information and to see if you qualify. You can fix this, but don't wait any longer. Pick up your mobile phone and dial *1234. That's *.
Now your local news from Talk Radio WRNR. Sunday night, Jefferson County Sheriff's deputies were dispatched to Marlowe Road and Don Quixote Drive in Charlestown for an accident involving a dirt bike. When they got there, they found the bike lying in the grass and a man in the intersection being attended to by EMS personnel. 29-year-old Garrett Eberhardt of Charlestown was pronounced dead at the scene. The initial investigation finding Eberhardt went off the road, crashed, and was ejected. Plans for Shepherdstown's Independence Day Parade and Picnic are set. Both events will be held rain or shine on the 4th. Everyone's welcome at both events, and admission is free. Martinsburg at about $2.89 per gallon once again has the highest gasoline price this week of the West Virginia metro areas surveyed for the AAA East Central fuel gauge. Huntington has the lowest price at about $2.75, and the average of the 8 West Virginia metro areas is about $2.82. That is 5 cents lower than last week. National average about $2.92. I'm Adam Boardman, Talk Radio WRNR News.
We're seeing Atlantic coastal high pressure building back in across the eastern portion of the country today, at least in our backyard. And that's going to bring some sunshine here and temperatures on the milder side than they've been for the last couple of days. Looking at about 76 degrees for our high in the afternoon. Light winds out of the southeast. Clouds will increase again overnight and into the early morning. The small chance of a shower. Early morning low reading at 62. Better chance for scattered showers and thunder showers coming up for Wednesday as we've got warmer air, more humidity coming back. High highest temperature near 85. I'm Bob Kukin, Talk Radio WRNR.
The future doesn't wait. Why should you? Blue Ridge Community and Technical College offers over 50 degree and certificate programs in education, IT, culinary arts, engineering, and so much more. Small class sizes, flexible schedules with evening and online classes, with affordable tuition, plus financial aid is available to those who qualify. Now you can go to college. Visit us online at blueridgectc.edu. That's blueridgectc.edu. Stop waiting and enroll today.
As Asanovic goes to second with a 2 RBI double, and Martinsburg is on the board first.
This is West Virginia State Delegate and former Little League All-Star Jason Barrett. I can still remember those summer days, the fun of playing baseball, building friendships, and learning lessons that are still with me today as I serve the people of the 61st District. I'm proud to support this year's All-Stars and wish the best to each team.
61st District Delegate Jason Barrett. Trusted leadership, real solutions. Will Greer to David Sills is a winning combination WVU fans know well.
Greer throwing toward the end zone. Ball caught, post pattern, Sills, touchdown! David Sills holds it in.
The Mountaineers, Talk Radio WRNR, and your business is a dynamic combination like no other. Contact our station to add your company to the coverage of the great tradition of West Virginia Mountaineer football and basketball. Heard right here on Talk Radio WRNR, the Panhandle Sports radio station.
Welcome back to the program, Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave on looks like to be, at least anyway, a pretty decent Tuesday here in the area. This segment of the show brought to you by L.A. Roberts Jewelers in downtown Martinsburg, committed to excellence in quality design and craftsmanship. I don't know about you, Dave, but I'm still blown away by Emma Engle and that young lady's ability to, she was incredibly well-spoken and confident. So to listen to what she had to say about what she wants to do, and I got a kick out of the fact that she can't really take a walk through life without looking and seeing how things are engineered. That really struck me.
Yeah, I think that we have so much fun here talking about the musicians and the actors and actresses, even those who, like David Avella, who end up being on television and a political leader. Kids who grow up in this area, and we love to celebrate that. But I think today was even a little bit more special because we got to celebrate a student, a 9th grade student, who is doing things that are just so phenomenal and going to national STEM camps and excelling in an area that is so important. Not that the other things that are entertainment related important, they are, but this is just carries I think a connotation of importance that is beyond, I think, almost anything, and that she has such that delightful personality as well, and she, most of all, admitted she's a little nerdy. She wears it like a badge of pride. So, and
we like her grandparents.
We do indeed, but we can't say that anymore because we're going to be told. You tell me that every time I'm on.
Our guests in this segment are from the VA Medical Center. We have the VA folks kindly enough to agree to drop by quarterly. Coming up at 9:45, Delegate Riley Moore, who has an extensive bit of experience internationally, politically. We're going to talk about North Korea with Riley coming up at 9:45. He's at a conference. He's going to duck out for a few seconds and spend some time with us in about 40 minutes here on the program, 35 minutes or so. Let's say a good morning to our guests here. Krista Bowen, Safety and Occupational Health Manager from the VA. Krista, thanks for coming in.
Good morning.
Come a little closer to your microphone so we can hear your lovely voice.
Good morning.
Great to have you here. Also, Rob Moore, who told me to call him by his easiest title, which is Environmental Manager. Good morning, Rob. How are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine.
What's the full title, though?
Green Environmental Management Systems Program Manager.
Can you fit all that on one business card?
Next name tag.
No, that's why I just go with Jim.
There you go.
He has 2 name tags to fit it all, Dave. And also in studio with us, Lauren Winebrenner, who's the Community Outreach Program Coordinator. Lauren, good to see you again.
Good to see you again.
Thanks for coming in today.
Absolutely.
Well, June is Safety Month, National Safety Month across the country. And tell me how that plays in with the VA Medical Center.
Well, we have created some activities for our staff and our veterans for
to commemorate the National Safety Month. So last week was Emergency Preparedness Week, was our focus area for that week, and we provided information on our emergency response teams. So we have several teams at the medical center that include our infectious disease incident response team. We have a decon team, which activates to decon staff or veterans if we have an incident. We have the DEMS team, which is the it's a disaster response team. So the VA sent medical center staff to Puerto Rico, for instance, during the hurricanes to help respond to that. And we also have police augmentees. So we were kind of recruiting for that team, but also we were providing information to staff about that.
When they sent a team to Puerto Rico, was that for general help or is that specifically for veterans in Puerto Rico?
No, it was general help. So we had people that were in the federal camps, and we also had people that were at the medical center.
When that happens, do you fly them down there, or do you go through a central coordinating agency? How does that all come together?
We have a DEMS coordinator at our facility, and then it gets coordinated through our central office.
Now, and these people on these response teams, these are full-time jobs that they have to be on this response team, or are they doing other things at the VA and this is on the side?
No, this is a collateral duty. So we have our regular nurses so we sent nurses, we sent police officers.
I see. Okay.
You could send safety people. Pretty much the entire country with the VA, we provided a lot of volunteers.
And if anything happens there at the VA, then you have a team ready to deal with any kind of emergency that might happen there.
Yes. Our decon team does expand out. We also have what's called a dual-use vehicle team, which provides mobile support. So we it has litters, it can convert to a passenger carrier, and we provide medical service in those dual-use vehicles. So we've responded to vehicle accidents. If there's multi-casualties or multi-injuries, we've responded to those as well.
In my other job, when I leave this job at 10 o'clock, I go and run a company that produces a lot of video and films for a lot of different kind of interest. And one of our clients over the past couple of years has been an agency, a part of the CDC actually, called NIOSH. Have you ever heard? It's the National Institutes of Safety and Occupational Hazard, I guess NIOSH, get all the letters right. And my experience with this outfit has been wonderful, by the way. We've just done some beautiful work for them. But how important safety officers take their job is never lost on me working with these people. And we've been on fishing vessels in Alaska with this group, and in Oregon and all over the country. And they are really, I mean, you as a community, safety officers are right up there with health officers, right? I mean, this is a serious bunch of people.
Yeah, we're not always the most popular people in the room.
Exactly right, yeah.
Yes. But we're there usually, we're not the most popular people in the room, but we take care of you when something bad happens.
Yeah, I've had another experience in working the same job, but working with Battelle, which is a national international organization out of Columbus. We do a lot of work for them too. And when we're on a site filming for something related to one of their scientific activities, there's always a one of you at that site, and they're kind of in charge. No one, in terms of the pyramid of hierarchy there, that you have to, and I always try and cheat. By the way, can we get closer to that hole? Well, yeah, if we put a belt around you and we put a link behind, I mean, it's amazing what we sometimes have to go through to get the right shot with cameras, because we can't get by the watchful eyes of the safety officer.
Yes, that definitely happens.
That's pretty, and that's the way you are in your job too, I would imagine, at the VA.
Yes, we are. We're very safety conscious, and we've created a culture that everybody is aware of. So we actually have a safe line, so that people call in and report potential hazards, and we investigate them, and sometimes it creates good corrective actions and improvements if they're at the medical center based on people's calls.
What I think is also really beneficial about our safety office is that it's tasked with keeping, obviously, our staff safe, which helps keep our veterans safe, and then the community. So a lot of the outreach and education that Krista and her staff have been doing not only impact staff, but also veterans in the community. Some of the themes for Safety Month go beyond just what we do at the medical center.
Yeah, so we, for instance, this week is Wellness Week. So we're setting up a table next to our farmers market that we have come in every Wednesday, And our nutrition and food service department is putting up a wellness kitchen, and they're doing some recipes, and they're providing. We have fruits and vegetables that the veterans come and pick up with the farmers market. So it's all about wellness this week, and staff can participate in those as well.
Rob, how do you tie into this?
Well, right now I'm just listening to the amazing conversation and getting an education. As the environmental manager, I fall under Krista's purview. I'm in the safety department, and I'll be the first to admit, when I came there as the environmental manager, I wasn't as educated on safety as maybe I should have been. And she was a great guiding voice in developing that mindset. And it's all about a mindset. It's getting people to look at things, to incorporate safety into every aspect of their job. We all get busy, and we all just want to get through the task in front of us. And sometimes that leads us to kind of want to put safety to a side because it takes a little bit longer. It takes, that extra piece of equipment or that extra step that you have to go through. And our job is to make sure that they get that mindset. And so, we work very closely. I mean, we talk all day long. And she looks at things from an environmental aspect as well, and vice versa. I look at things. So our jobs are really go hand in hand.
And part of that job, then, if I'm hearing right, is to, the more people you educate, excuse me, on the importance of safety, the fewer incidents, and they're more mindful of it in their work and even in their non-work lives, and the fewer incidences that you're going to have. So a lot of this is education then.
Yeah, that's actually one of the roles of the safety office, is to provide education to our staff, kind of identify what hazards they might be involved in, educate them what those hazards are, and then provide them with corrective actions to mitigate the hazards, whether that be PPE or some kind of engineering control or an administrative control.
How about in our lives? We've got, several thousand listeners. They're listening to this. They may not ever go to the VA, let's say. What does the average person need to be mindful of just in their, as they go about their everyday lives? I mean, are there sort of some hints that you could provide, that things that we should be mindful of that we might not generally be mindful of?
Well, I mean, there's the obvious things. So one of the focus areas this year for National Safety Month is driving, obviously. So driving, most people spend a lot of time in their vehicles.
Oh my, yeah.
Distracted driving. Texting while driving. The other thing is that now cars are equipped with all these safety features. Well, if you rent a car, or for us at the VA, if we get a carpool vehicle, we may not understand what the safety features are of the vehicle. Or if you get a electric vehicle, is the car on? I can't tell if it's on or not. Right. So you had to understand what vehicle you're getting into, look at the safety features, make sure you understand why it's beeping at you when you're driving down the road, so you don't panic at the time when you're driving. So again, that distracted driver, that understanding what you're getting into when you're getting into a vehicle.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing when you look at your car, your home, your workplace. I mean, there's a dozen things every day that you come into contact with that could probably hurt you pretty badly. I mean, if you're not careful.
Yeah, I mean, simply cleaning out your gutters at home can be a hazard.
What could happen cleaning out your gutters?
Well, obviously, you have a ladder that you have to climb.
Oh yeah, the ladder.
So, yeah.
Are you afraid of heights?
Long story short, I never was until my son fell out of a third-story window, and now I get on top of a ladder and I freak out.
Sure, I don't blame you for that.
And a lot of people get on their roofs to patch roofs. That's a hazard right there, because you're the fall hazard. So,
are veterans better or worse at safety measures?
I think it's a mixed bag. I mean, I think we have our veterans that are who work at our medical center who are just as safety conscious as the next person, and then it's really about your personal mindset.
What I also think is interesting about veterans is a lot of them were in the military, and military also has a very big commitment to safety. And I remember when I was in the Navy, we would have these safety stand-downs, but the way that they did their education through safety was like 4 hours death by PowerPoint. So I think like what Krista's doing with setting up display.
That is such a great line.
That
is such a great line.
So I think you have a lot of veterans that come from that background where safety is drilled into them, but I think providing them with the different kinds of education that the VA offers through social media, through our internal communications, through setting up displays and tables, I think it helps drive the message home a little more instead of just with PowerPoints.
What's the next thing you guys have going on at the VA?
So, well, we have the Wellness Week this week, and then next week is our Falls, where focus area is on fall prevention. So that's kind of a twofold. So we have our patient falls, and we have employee falls for your holes and your scaffolding and items like that for construction type safety in our maintenance areas. So we'll be providing guidance on that. And then we have a safe patient handling coordinator at our medical center who kind of manages how we move patient movement and to prevent pitfalls from patients. And that actually is really a twofold benefit because it prevents injuries from our patients, but it also prevents injuries from our veteran or our employees from moving those patients improperly. So we have lifts, we have hover mats that we use. So that safe patient handling coordinator is really that person that does that. So next week we have the safe patient handling coordinator who's going to be providing education. We'll be recruiting for what's called our IRIS pool, which they're the champions really on our patient units to show people how to use our safe patient handling equipment.
What kind of precautions does the VA as a hospital take against the spread of infection? We've heard so many stories about hospitals becoming much more aware of this over the last several years because of how many patients get an infection while in the hospital. And I know there were several different kind of scares that you could probably pick one of the scare of the year over the last couple of years with this germ or that germ in high schools and wrestling mats and hospitals and whatever. But what do you folks do?
So we are always looking at the different types of cleaning products that we use and weighing the benefits of the infection control and employee exposures. So we're always kind of looking at that and piloting new products to see what provides the best, shortest contact time, the best disinfection, and then different mechanisms to control those hazards. So we do constant testing to reassure that we're actually disinfecting the surfaces, and that's an ongoing process. We have an infection control coordinator and infectious disease physicians that work very closely with the safety office. In fact, Rob's actually on the infection control committee. I was previously on that. It is really a team effort that we have.
So once they find a product that is effective and is for what it fits the bill for what they're looking for, I step in and say it's not green enough.
That's your job.
That's my job.
To throw the wrench in.
Exactly.
Environmental concerns, right?
Yeah.
I noticed doctors over the last couple of years have made a much better habit of disinfecting their hands when they go from room to room and patient to patient. You didn't see that as much a few years ago, but it's pretty religious now.
It is. And actually we have what we call secret shoppers. So they are kind of our watchers on the units, and they take note of making sure that everybody washes their hands properly or disinfects their hands.
So if someone doesn't wash their hands, do they get ratted out then?
Yes, they do. Yes, and actually we encourage our patients to rat out our doctors and our staff because that's their safety and that's their health. So we definitely encourage our patients to say, "Hey, did you wash your hands before you touch me?" So that is
definitely their right.
Highly encouraged.
We should have one of those Steris dispensers in here, Dave.
I just ran out of mine. It was right here for a long time.
We got to get one of those, or they're going to put us on report.
I know.
What I think is interesting about infection control, because I just came back to the VA a few months ago, and you go through new employee orientation, and they really drive home that infection control is everybody's responsibility, not just the safety officer, not just the infection control coordinator, but everybody's responsible for washing their hands and reminding other people to do that. And that's like the number one defense against spreading infections is just washing your hands and washing them properly. So we do a lot of hand hygiene education, and we have posters, we have the secret shopper programs, and then the infection control coordinator kind of helps manage all those programs. That might be a good future segment.
Yeah, sure. Nobody's perfect, but I hear very good things about the Martinsburg VA Medical Center from the veterans that we speak with. You're going to get complaints every now and then. When you deal with as many people as you deal with, you're going to have those. What do you guys do well? What have you locked into that's turned the ship around, at least at the VA Center in Martinsburg?
I think transforming our culture with regard to safety has really been our big thing. I've been there at the medical center for 8 years, and I've really seen this transition.
Where did you come from, Krista?
The public sector. So I was a consultant. I was an industrial hygiene consultant.
Was it when you got to the VA? Were you like, what are we doing? Or were you like, hey, we're doing great here?
Well, it was more of a, it's a little shock to your system when you become a federal employee from a consulting. So you're kind of, it's in that transition as well. There was some communication that didn't happen. So I think those communication barriers have really been broken down, and we communicate with all services very effectively at this point. I think that's probably the biggest change, is that culture was a little bit more remote. Again, safety's not the most popular people in the room. Sure. A lot of times we're telling you things that you don't want to hear.
But you should be, though, shouldn't you?
Yeah, and that's kind of where the culture change has occurred, is safety is not looked at as this barrier to get things done. It's looked at as a next step to try to get it done safer.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, going back to my own example as well, when I said tongue-in-cheek, that I was on this particular site I'm thinking about, it was actually out in Puget Sound, where I got yelled at on a film shoot we were doing.
Why am I not surprised?
Well, because I needed my cameraman, and I needed to get a shot of a borehole that was being drilled in the middle of a parking lot where they were doing some exploration for certain things, and we needed that shot. We needed the drill going down, and they wouldn't let us get from within 10 feet of it. But we snuck in and tried to get it anyway, and that'll be it. I mean. Bellicose yelling at me. So we worked it out. We actually had to put a strap around the cameraman and tie it to something. They were accommodating.
Full restraint.
It's as I said, it's a forceful group, and because of people like me that will try and bend the rules. Not out of because we're bad people, just because we have certain needs.
Don't gloss over the bad people part of that equation so quickly, Dave. Let's leave that open for review.
I'm trying to get out of this borehole if I can.
Krista, Bowen, Rob Moore, and Lauren Winebrenner are our guests here from the VA Medical Center in Martinsburg here on Eastern Panhandle Talk with Rob and Dave. If you have a question for either of our guests, 304-263-6540 or 304-263-6586 would be the telephone numbers. Now, if you could, bring me back to a point where you said you had something coming up regards to safety in the very near future. Could you review that?
So yes, this week was Wellness Week. Next week we're going to be focusing on fall prevention, and then the following week is the driver safety.
Okay. And can anybody attend this?
Yeah, it is really open up to the public. It's mainly for our veterans and our employees that come to the medical center. But yeah.
And anybody can come to the farmers market. That'll be set up tomorrow. It's set up every Wednesday. I can't remember the exact times off the top of my head.
Midday, like 11 to
Where do we find it?
It's right outside the main lobby. So when you drive in and park, you'll see the farmer's stand set up. And then I think that's where she said Nutrition and Food Service will be doing their demos with different kinds of produce and food.
Will you have any, what was it, Dave, cinnamon beets?
I think that's what it was.
Was that what it was?
Cinnamon or some kind. I don't think it was cinnamon, because that would have been more like a sugar. That might have been cinnamon.
Was it?
Yeah, when Gwen made
You guys know Gwen Eisler? Or you speak one of the nutritionists at the VA Medical Center?
I don't remember how
she came in and brought us cinnamon beets once, I think is what it was.
That's interesting.
We have her in from time to time to talk about good nutrition, and her idea of good nutrition. I mean, by the way, it's her ideas are all good ideas, but sometimes what she'll make us are things that challenge our taste buds. But after we eat them, we always like them, And but when you think about cinnamon beets or whatever it was that she brought in that day. She's probably listening right now, so I have to be careful because we love you, Gwen.
And to go back what you were asking earlier about things that the Martinsburg VA Medical Center does well, I think our nutrition and food programs and the things that we've excelled with that, along with Rob might be able to speak to a little bit of our composting efforts. We have a lot of gardens, so we're starting to grow some of our own produce, and not necessarily. So we bring it into our own kitchens, but also they have programs in place to give veterans fresh fruit and vegetables, trying to help keep them
How
healthy.
big of an area is that where you're growing vegetables out there? Is it the size of a farm or?
Well, they just planted this season. They just planted their own. NFS just planted their own garden, and it's probably, backyard patch. It's not real big right now.
All right.
But there are plans. They're looking at possibly doing a rooftop garden as well.
No way.
Is using some of the rooftop space to garden.
Amazing.
And then use that food in the kitchen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, very nice. Hey, did we leave anything out before we go to a commercial break? Everything good. If anybody wants to find out more about what we've spoken about today, where can they go to find out more about what's going on?
They can go to our website, www.martinsburg.va.gov, or our Facebook page, Martinsburg VA Medical Center.
Very nice. Lauren, thank you so much for coming in.
Yeah.
Rob, Krista, good to see you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Martinsburg VA Medical Center here at 9:31, and this segment of the program brought to you this morning by the Brown Funeral Homes and Cremations, Robert Fields and Sons, a family-owned full-service funeral home proudly serving our area since 1880.
Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. From Soho down to Brighton, I must have played them all. But I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. That deaf, dumb, and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball.
It's the Jeep Celebration event at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Martinsburg. Stop in now for great deals on a great line of Jeep products. Get $1,000 cash back on a 2019 Jeep Cherokee with financing at 0% for 60 months. How about a new 2019 Cherokee Latitude 4x4, only $219 a month, or a 2018 Jeep Wrangler JK for only $296 a month. Get bonus cash up to $6,000 off a 2018 Renegade, plus $500 trade. Stop by and test drive a Chrysler Pacifica and get free movie passes. It's all at the Jeep Celebration event at Miller's Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty on Kelly Island Road, or online at millerschryslerjeep.com. All payments based on approved credit, taxes, tags, and processing fees extra. See dealer for details.
The Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center has introduced a 10-week sports-specific training program called SPEED for 12 to 17-year-old athletes. The goal of SPEED is to evaluate each individual athlete, assess their deficiencies, and design programs to improve the athlete's performance. The new program for young athletes includes strength and conditioning coaching from the Wellness Center pros, as well as the Technogym equipment. If you're interested in building a foundation of long-term athletic success and injury prevention for your athlete, contact the Wellness Center at Berkeley Medical Center.
L.A. Roberts is Berkeley County's oldest jeweler, where every season is new and exciting. In fact, new is old school to us, and though it's nothing new, our old traditions like exceptional service, quality, and value maintain L.A. Roberts Jewelers as the old master among so many new kids on the block. Whether you are a newcomer or part of the old guard, entrust all your fine jewelry needs to L.A. Roberts, Old World Jewelers for a new age, in historic downtown Martinsburg. Allman Brothers, man. Did you like the Allman Brothers?
I love the Allman Brothers. Sure. Who didn't like the Allman Brothers?
I had a guy that was a year or two older than me in high school, Mark Miskowitz. Everybody just called him Misky. And he was such a big Allman Brothers fan. And this is in the 70s, of course, when Jimmy Carter was president and Southern rock was really kind
Just
of
coming online.
taking
yeah.
over the pop charts
Sure.
a little bit there.
Yeah.
Skynyrd was so incredibly popular, and I was a big Skynyrd fan, and he said, no, it's just the Allman Brothers, man. Southern rock, it just starts and ends with the Allman Brothers. Miskey was one of those really totally laid-back dudes. In fact, did you ever see the movie Dazed and Confused?
I think I did, Rob, but I can't
if you
recall
did,
it right now.
There was a long-haired dude.
I certainly remember the title, yeah.
Yeah, there was a long-haired dude who wore a little cap, and he always, was totally laid back. That's kind of what Miskey was like, that dude right there in Dazed and Confused. This segment of the show brought to you this morning by our good friends at Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. On the program tomorrow in the 9 o'clock hour, Senate President Mitch Carmichael will join us via telephone.
That's big.
Big thanks to the Chair of Finance, I should say, not Vice Chair, but the Chair of Finance in the Senate, Craig Blair, who is hoping to join us in progress as that segment moves along. They finished the last of the PEIA town meetings, I guess you could call them, yesterday in
Hearings
Charleston.
or whatever. Yeah, 24 of them.
Yesterday was the last of those. So now they've got all the data they should probably need to gather.
And then some, I would imagine.
Quote, unquote, use that to fix PEIA.
Yeah, and Mitch Carmichael coming on, just so you put that in perspective, there is no lieutenant governor in West Virginia, so the Senate president actually carries that dual title of Senate president and lieutenant governor.
Second in command.
Second in command,
right.
Yeah. So that's big, right?
Some states, I don't remember who the last state was to do this, but I guess they would have governor and lieutenant governor would run together. And then at one point along the way, I guess you have to go back a few years, whoever finished second was the lieutenant governor.
I've never heard of that in a state before. I do know that some states, they run, were states that have a lieutenant governor. There are some that run separately, and then there are some that run together. There's the state of New Jersey that just added a lieutenant governor. They had never had one before, and they had a vote of the people and decided to have a lieutenant governor. And I think one of the reasons that kind of caused that was there was a time 20 or so years ago where New Jersey, for a confluence of reasons, indictments and other things, went through like 5 governors in 15 months. And that with each one there was not a clear lieutenant governor. They had the Senate president who always became governor, but it had not been a statewide election of the people, so they put in an office called lieutenant governor.
You could have a separate election for lieutenant governor where you could have a Republican governor and a Democrat lieutenant governor, or vice versa.
That actually, in a funny kind of way, that happened out in California back in I'm thinking it was the 1976 election for president. I think that was the year when Jerry Brown, then ending his governorship in California the first time around, when Jerry Brown was only 31 years old, he came back and ran for governor, and he's the governor now in his 60s. But he was the Democratic governor of California, and at the same time there had been a young conservative Republican named Mike Curb, who was elected lieutenant governor. And the Constitution in California is that any time the governor leaves the state, the lieutenant governor becomes the governor.
Just change everything.
Well, what you do is that Jerry Brown would leave the state because he's running for president. He had to leave the state and go campaign. And every time he'd leave the state, Mike Curb would start vetoing bills that the Democratic legislature passed.
I bet they got along well.
So then Brown came back in, and they'd have to redo it. So there was a farce. In Pennsylvania, your home state, they run as a team, Republican versus Democrat. I would think, like president, vice president. And it is the only state, I believe, the only state in the country that provides a mansion for their lieutenant governor.
When they first had presidential elections in this country, didn't the guy who finished second be the vice president?
In the very early days that's the way the original deal was. And so when you had you'd have these two, that's why you ended up with like Adams and Jefferson, there, who did not like each other very much, right? And ended up as president and vice president there. So they realized pretty early on that needed to be changed, and that got changed.
Judy is on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. Judy wrote me an email yesterday, very critical of the governor. Good morning, Judy. How are you?
I'm doing great. How about you?
Awesome. Thank you very much. We're going to have Delegate Jason Barrett on tomorrow morning at 8:30 to get into some of this more that you're about to get into right now. Go ahead and rant, Judy. Now's your time.
Yeah, I really need to rant. I mean, my confidence level in our governor is pretty low these days. I mean, where's the accountability? I mean, my whole issue that I wrote to you about yesterday was about RISE and that money.
Okay, start going into some details so our audience catches on.
How you spend money without any accountability.
Okay, tell us a bit more detail now. So start to get into the RISE, because we're going to do a show on this tomorrow morning.
Right.
Tell us about the RISE monies and FEMA, and what your gripe is about it.
Well, first off, the RISE money was not utilized in any timely fashion for the victims of the 2016 floods. Families still don't have jobs. Children don't have access to a safe school. And, you know, the governor's staff made a deal with a consulting company out of Mississippi whose reputation is pretty poor. And their reputation is that they have built millions of dollars out of FEMA without delivering anything more than, than a dossier on, there's a lot of damage. So I guess my big concern is who vetted that consulting company, and when in fact they were going to be receiving millions of dollars out of this RISE money. And I guess my question for our delegates is, how did this money end up in Commerce, the Department of Development, which is directly in the governor's office? That's taxpayer money. It was designated, and for whatever happened, governor's not in Charleston, so I guess anybody does whatever they want with the money once we as the taxpayers say, we'll put money into helping those people from the floods, but still they're down there and there's nothing.
So, Judy, this was
big announcement.
This was
His big announcement was he's going to spend $3 million on a risk assessment study, when in fact our Corps of Engineers in the military already did that.
So this is federal money, right, Judy, that was appropriate?
No, this is coming out of legislative money.
Okay, this is state money then. Okay.
Yes, and there is federal money in it also, but this was the money that was designated at the end of session because of there was no active support for the victims of the 2016 floods.
So have people who lost their homes or who were eligible for this funding, has any of it gotten to those people who need it?
According to the governor's press release, they have not received funds. And then someone apparently made a comment, it went in the newspaper, and of course then our governor decided, we better get a press release out there. And then of course we heard conversation on R&R, how did this money end up in the governor's Department of Commerce? And now somebody's got to get to the bottom of it. And I think because I have run enough nonprofits that when somebody says, tell me how you spent your money, if I bought 5,000 rolls of toilet paper, I better have it on my accounting sheet.
Sure.
And they can't account for any of this at this point in time.
West Virginia made its request to start using federal long-term relief money on January 29. HUD gave its okay on February 20. That's with the federal dollars, Judy, and that's been slow to be doled out. So the whole thing really has been mismanaged, at least it would appear to be, and the people who are supposed to get help apparently are not getting it.
And again, our governor has no accountability. He comes out with a statement. It was maybe 2 paragraphs long, stating that he fired someone and they're going to go ahead and allocate $3 million on a risk assessment study. That's not helping families rebuild their lives. And it's an area that typically would not have flooded like that. And when we send our military and other people down to assess the land and what happened there in the rivers, we don't need to pay $3 million to somebody else from out of town. I mean, he talks about hiring West Virginians. How many West Virginians had jobs down there for any kind of reclamation or cleanup from those floods? We don't need people from Mississippi telling us how to fix our land. So I guess what I'm just screaming about is knowing that FEMA already mismanages money, and when they get on site to a disaster, they don't do a swift job. But my concern is, as a taxpayer, I want to see a line item, accounting of how this money. Where's the spreadsheet? You can't find anything. I mean, I've been on the internet for the 2 days I've been home. You can't find anything coming out of that office to know how they spent that money, other than in his little 2-paragraph press release. So I think right now, if this governor resigned, I would smile.
I think there are some other people who would agree with you on that assessment, by the way.
Nice rant, Judy. Nice rant.
I feel better now.
Would you also please pass on to your husband that I will not be going on a roller coaster ride with him?
Yeah, he's a roller coaster freak.
I'm in the sissy
and he
category.
likes to take those undersea rides too. You know, my
thank
big
you.
diver here.
Hey, Judy, thank you very much. At 9:44, this segment was brought to you by Miller Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, Route 9 east of Martinsburg, home of the lifetime power train warranty. Delegate Riley Moore will join us next.
Burke, Schultz, Harmon, and Jenkinson. We're accident, injury, and disability lawyers with over 120 years combined local trial experience. When injury or illness has stopped you from working, you may be eligible for Social Security disability. Ron Harmon has been winning disability claims for over a quarter of a century. Don't hire some out-of-state firm. Ron Harmon's in Martinsburg. He will meet with you right here in our office. Get a local lawyer you can trust. Call 304-LAWYERS for a free consultation. 304-LAWYERS or 304-263-0900.
You're really busy. Got it. The last thing you want to think about today is a funeral home. Got it. But a little forward thinking now can save you a lot of heartache later. It's easier than you think. We're Brown Funeral Homes, family owned, in business for over 135 years, since 1880. And we're home based, right here in the Eastern Panhandle. Think smart. Think ahead. Brown Funeral Homes, Martinsburg, Inwood, and Charlestown, Ranson. Brown Funeral Homes. We're here for you.
The Honda 4th of July sales event has brilliant deals on our most popular vehicles, like the Civic, Fit, and Pilot. It's a reason to celebrate across the country, from the Liberty Bell to Hollywood, and even back up to Niagara Falls. So come discover the 2018 KBB.com Best Overall Brand during the Honda 4th of July sales event, now at your Honda dealer.
Miller Honda, south of Winchester, home of the lifetime powertrain warranty. www.mymillerhonda.com.
Based on 2018 brand image awards from Kelley Blue Book. Visit KBB.com for more information.
This final segment of our show brought to you this morning by the Berkeley County Health Department at 122 Waverly Court in Martinsburg, offering public, clinical, and environmental services and so much more, as well as great advice on how long you can keep your food out in the summer if you're having a picnic, by the way. 4 hours, Dave. 4 hours.
4 hours. Would that be like a mayonnaise sandwich? Could you leave it out that long?
I would be less on mayo. Keep it iced, maybe.
That would make me kind of worried, I would think.
Delegate Riley Moore is on the WVU Medicine Jefferson Medical Center talk line. We have about 13 minutes left until we send you to the Glenn Beck Show here. Riley, good morning. Thanks for being with us.
Good morning. How are y'all doing, Rob and Dave?
Awesome, dude.
We're
Thanks.
doing good. Nice to have you.
Your Vine today. Well, you're at a conference today?
I am at the, y'all might remember, I was chosen as one of the emerging leaders in GoPack. So I'm at the GoPack conference right now.
I did not know that was this week, but that's right. We remember you were chosen. I hope you're having a very informative and educational experience.
Yes, one of Dave's proteges here.
Yeah, where is that being held?
Chicago.
Oh, well, I'll give our best to Mr. David Avella.
Of course, I will. We sat down last night, had a good dinner and a good talk, and he spoke about you at length and how impactful you were on his life and his career.
Did he mention me at all, Riley?
He didn't really.
Hell no.
Because I gave his first radio break. I had a little bit of a effect. I introduced him to a microphone. He seems to like that.
Well, there's no one I know of that I'm more personally proud of than David Avella. I mean, it's almost proud of him like a son, to tell you the truth. So.
Hey, Riley, before we get into the North Korea stuff, just real quick on this relief money that's getting, I guess, hung up and not getting to the people who need it. Is the legislature aware of these issues?
The legislature is acutely aware of it. And on our side, we've had Roger Hanshaw from Clay County, who was his area was greatly affected by the floods. You remember just a couple of years ago. Yeah. He's really taken the lead on this and trying to nail down what in the heck is going on. But we are certainly poised to take legislative action if that's what is required, because what is going on right now is inexcusable.
Do you folks have the power to call yourselves into Charleston to assemble about this without the governor's blessing?
Yes, we do.
Do you think that will happen if the governor doesn't act swiftly?
I think that could be a possibility, and it's certainly something that's being discussed.
let's go to North Korea now. Your assessment of what happened yesterday. I've heard anything from glowing reviews to people critical of the president for giving away too much and not getting enough back.
Well, I think in general terms, I think it was absolutely successful. Now, the proof's going to be in the pudding, so to speak, but that joint document that they had signed and committed to lays out in very clear and uncertain terms that North Korea is going to commit to the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula. I think that in itself is certainly historic, but I think the criticism here is, well, there's not a lot of details. I think we talked just last week. This was going to be really a strategic framework, a roadmap of how things are going to proceed. And I think the person that we all need to look to right now, because there's a very interesting point in that document that they signed, and it says the United States and the DP and the DPRK commit to hold follow-up negotiations led by U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo and relevant high-level DPRK officials. So that is in that document, and Mike Pompeo is certainly somebody who has been very unequivocal about where he stands in terms of verification and compliance, and complete denuclearization is the only outcome that we shall accept. And I can tell you from a personal standpoint, his Assistant Secretary of Arms Control Verification and Compliance, the Assistant Secretary of State for that bureau, Alem Poblet, is one of my mentors, who was my staff director on the House Foreign Affairs Committee, and you're not going to find somebody who is more steeped in the sanctions issue or verification and compliance. She crafted the Iran sanctions bill back there in the mid-2000s. She's worked on Cuba sanctions. She is top of the top in terms of this field, and we're going to see how this works out, but we have all the right players involved here, and if what the president's indicating that the DPRK, the North Koreans, are willing to take actual concrete steps of taking apart missile silos and the like, that's great, and but we need verification in that process, and I think we'll have to see how it all plays out, and the president has said that this is going to be a long-term solution, and I think that's exactly right. Now, he's laid out some concessions that are certainly, some folks have said, this is too much, ending joint exercises with South Korea. Now, if these things don't go the way that the president wants them to, I mean, you all have watched this president long enough to know he could just change his mind and say, well, they're back on now. So I think this is a bit of an olive branch, so to speak, to the DPRK, and let's see what they do with it.
Riley, it seems to me that, and of course, I mean, we're all extremely interested in what's going on here, and I suppose that you could nitpick this. If you hate Donald Trump, you want to nitpick it on the left, you want to compare it to what he said at G7, you can find all different kinds of ways to go about this. But at the end of the day, aside from everything else, shouldn't we just, as Americans, right now, feel pretty good about the fact that we have a president, whoever it might be, but we have a president who's sitting down and talking to the leader of a country who is, they say, experts say, a year away from being able to bomb with a nuclear weapon anywhere in the United States he wants to send a missile to. Isn't it just the fact that we've begun a process should be something that, at least for a day, we could all feel pretty good about?
Dave, you could not be more correct about this, because what people need to do is put this in the context is there are two options here to address this issue. It's through these types of talks, or it's going to be some type of military option, because the United States cannot and will not accept a nuclear-capable North Korea with the capabilities to be able to reach the continental United States or any of its territories.
That's
not an acceptable outcome.
Yeah, and that's well said. And I think we also need to maybe just take a big, deep breath. And when we start talking about this issue, just as Americans, and we're almost 99.9% of us are lay people when it comes to all of the expertise part of this. But we have to understand that this president, and I think I've been pretty clear over the last 2.5 years, I'm not a huge Donald Trump fan. I'm not a campaign guy for Donald Trump, but come on, guys. The fact of the matter is he inherited, just like Barack Obama inherited a terrible economy, this president inherited a situation, a North Korean situation, far worse than any other president inherited.
That's absolutely correct. And so he walks into office. These folks, the North Koreans, DPRK starts testing missiles, test an intercontinental ballistic missile, and we're now that didn't happen overnight. That happened over the last at least 8 years prior to that, developing that technology. And if you remember correctly, the Obama administration had this strategy that they called as strategic patience. Well, that strategic patience ended up being strategic complacence. And we didn't do anything in terms of engagement on North Korea's nuclear program. And here's where we are. It is a very hard thing to unwind once somebody is nuclear capable. And the president is doing everything correct right now. And it is it is greatly disappointing to see many on the left trying to tear down this really historic meeting and agreement, because the alternative, if they don't like what the president's trying to do, is some type of military action, because a nuclear-armed North Korea with the capability of reaching the United States with an intercontinental ballistic missile is an outcome that we shall not and will not accept. So if they don't like this, there's one other option.
Riley, the main criticism I heard this morning nationally was that what he essentially got was something that was already given by the North Korean dictator over Pyongyang previously. So the North Koreans really weren't giving up any more than what they already were agreeing to do.
Okay, so that's actually a little bit different, though. So that's what they had agreed. To with Pyongyang, but as I just laid out, what's a little bit different here is the United States and the DPRK have now committed to having the Secretary of State and a relevant high-level official of the DPRK move forward in implementing the outcomes of this summit, which, read bullet one, is the complete denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula.
And Ronnie, I got to jump in there because we got to get to our commercial break. Thank you so much for calling at 9:58. We'll be right back after this.
Human trafficking is modern-day slavery, and it happens in our own communities. Victims can be any gender, age, or race. Join the Department of Homeland Security's Blue Campaign to learn how to recognize and report this heinous crime. Visit our website at www.dhs.gov/bluecampaign. That's www.dhs.gov/bluecampaign. Your second look could be their second chance.
Possibilities are all around us. We see potential in unexpected places. And when we share our knowledge, vision, and connections, we turn great ideas into action in communities all around the world. Together, we can make real change happen. We're Rotary. We are people of action. Get involved at Rotary.org.
Big thanks to Delegate Riley Moore for that last-minute appearance there. We appreciate him exiting that conference at GoPac to share a little of his knowledge on the North Korea situation. David.
Yeah, Riley would be, with all that knowledge, he'd be a credible candidate for Congress someday, I would think.
I think that's probably in his plans.
Just saying.
Just
Throwing it out there.
A little disappointed Abella didn't bring me up when he was talking about you, Dave. It just kind of really sticks
You
with
know
me.
what? I think he was talking about both of us because let us not forget, he kind of brought us together 23 years ago.
Curse that man.
Curse him. Look what he started.
Until tomorrow, Senate President Mitch Carmichael, Delegate Jason Barrett, maybe Senate Finance Chair Craig Blair, too. Until then, the Glenn Beck Show is next. This is Talk Radio WRNR Martinsburg. Talk to you again in 22 short hours.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by TheraWorks Relief.
I'm Jim Taylor. A pledge of denuclearization of North Korea, a promise to end U.S. war games in the South. The give and takeaways from an historic summit in Singapore.
In his own words, Kim Jong-un vowed that he's leaving the past behind.
The world will see a major change.
President Trump says his instinct tells him the North Koreans are serious.
They want to make a deal.
But how can he be sure? At a lengthy news conference here, Mr. Trump acknowledged nothing is certain.
I mean, I may stand before you in 6 months and say, hey, I was wrong. I don't know that I'll ever admit that, but I'll find some kind of an excuse.
But for now, the president calls this a very great moment in the history of the world. Stephen Portnoy, CBS News, Singapore.
I'm Jason Struther in Seoul. South Korea's President Moon Jae-in says he welcomes the agreements made by President Trump